The Mule is a new film starring and directed by Clint Eastwood, and it tells the story of Earl Stone, a 90-year-old man who has recently lost his livelihood and becomes a drug mule for a cartel. His appearance and manner make him very good at this, and he starts to use his new money to try to make amends with the family that he's neglected for years. Meanwhile, a DEA task force led by Bradley Cooper is looking to make a big bust and are slowly closing in on Earl. The last film I saw of Eastwood's was the 317 to Paris, which was really bad. It's actually shocking that it was him that directed it. And his filmography has been kind of hit and miss for me overall, but when his films are good, they are really good. And I thought that this film was actually really great. Clint Eastwood's really good in this, and now that I think about it, he is kind of playing against type, at least as far as my experience with his acting goes, because he usually plays these very hard, grizzled, tough guy roles. And when I read that his character in this was a veteran, I kind of assumed that he would be playing the same sort of role that he did in Gran Torino, which is not really a problem because I really like Gran Torino and I really liked him in that. And if it was the same again with a different plot, I wouldn't have minded too much. But here he's playing an old man, a very realistic, I could imagine running into this guy in real life, old man. And he does all the kind of things that old men do. He knows about technology, but he doesn't really know how to use it. Things like phones and texting and the internet. And he makes like racist comments because he doesn't really know how to talk to black people or gay people in a more PC way. And he makes a lot of inappropriate comments. And it can be kind of funny, but it's always made very clear that it's not okay. He kind of doesn't have a filter. He's just very charming and likable, and it's so much fun to watch that charm and likability just endear him to all the hardened cartel members. A film like this really relies on his performance, and I think that he really nails it. Bradley Cooper is fine in this role. He's good, but not a lot is asked of him, and he's not in it very much. It isn't the cop versus criminal kind of relationship that you might get in something like Catch Me If You Can or Heat to a lesser extent. It all kind of has an air of Bradley Cooper had some free time between movies and he was able to squeeze this in because it wouldn't take too long to film, because Eastwood is a notoriously quick filmmaker. There are actually a lot of big names in small parts in this film, like Michael Peña, Laurence Fishburne, Clifton Collins Jr. and Andy Garcia. They add some gravitas to the proceedings. It's not really needed, but it is nice to see them in there. And I thought that Diane Wiest was really great in this. Again, it's not a really big part, but for what her character has to be, basically the person who makes it clear to Eastwood what he's done wrong and sort of effect that it's had on the people who loved him. She's really good, and she made me feel really sad for her character in her more important scenes at the end of the film. I want to make this really clear. This is not an action film, and I would actually hesitate to even call it a thriller. It's actually a very relaxed film, which might be surprising because of its very intense and misleading poster and trailer. While I was watching it, it kept reminding me of The Old Man and the Gun, which came out last year. Both are about criminals embracing life in a very unusual way, but they also have very similar tones. It's a serious subject matter, but it's portrayed in a very light-hearted kind of way. But I think that this film is better than The Old Man and the Gun because it has more stakes, it has a bit more dramatic heft, and it has a much more complicated protagonist. In that film, Robert Redford robbed banks because that's what made him happy and he had to do what he loved. In this film, Clint Eastwood has already spent his life doing what he loved at the cost of his family, which he now realizes is probably the thing he should have been focusing on all along. He sees the money that he makes as a drug mule as a way to buy the time that he needs to make amends to his family. He's a horticulturalist in this, which kind of rides the line and almost tips over into being silly just because it's the image of Clint Eastwood growing and selling flowers. But it actually does work when you see what they're doing with it, and the concept really pays off, especially in the final scene of the film. The Old Man and the Gun also had the concept of the cop and the criminal like learning from each other, especially the younger learning from the older about life mistakes and how to live your life and be happier. In that it was Robert Redford and Casey Affleck kind of learns how to be more in the moment and learn to enjoy life. In this, Bradley Cooper's kind of learning basically not to focus on work and to put family first, which is a pretty simple idea, but it's very effective. It really leans heavily on the ideas of technology overwhelming and leaving behind the older generation, and the younger generation not really having the patience for the way the older generation does things. Eastwood is so successful as a mule because of his manner and his charm and his style of doing things, and the younger people don't really understand that, and they try to tell him what to do and try to fix what isn't broken by making it more complicated. And that's paralleled with Andy Garcia's drug lord character, who has a lot of younger employees who are questioning the way he does things and think that he should be more hard-lined and professional with people like Eastwood's drug mule, even though things are already going well and they're making a lot of money. Andy Garcia is also really likeable in this. He usually plays dick characters, and I thought it was going to be the same here, but I was wrong. It's weird because I was actually wrong about like all the members of the drug cartel. It's a refreshing way to portray the villains in your film. Like, they seem pretty bad, but the more you get to know them and the more that Clint Eastwood's character gets them to open up and warm up, they're actually pretty nice guys. There are moments of tension, but they're not too tense, and there's moments of violence, but it's not too violent. It's a weirdly fun movie. We're along for the ride with Earl, and we don't really want the ride to end. You want him to just keep delivering drugs because he seems to be having so much damn fun. It's probably not a good thing for how it portrays drug life, but I really enjoyed it, and I give The Mule an A. Definitely one of the best films I've seen all year, but it's only January. But I think I will remember this film throughout the rest of the year. I also can't help but wonder if maybe Clint Eastwood was drawing any comparisons between his character in this and maybe who he is in real life, his personal life. If Earl Stone's devotion to his flowers at the expense of his family is a metaphor in any way for Clint Eastwood's passion for filmmaking, and maybe that had an effect on his family, that is all a complete guess, absolute speculation, because I don't know anything about Clint Eastwood's actual personal life. I just thought it'd be kind of interesting if that was the case. So have you seen The Mule? What did you think of it? And what's your favourite Clint Eastwood performance? Let me know in the comments. Please like and subscribe, it really helps me out. And I'll be back soon with more reviews, and I'll see you then.